Welcome to On Off Topic.
What's going on, Andrew?
Not much.
I
What's going on, Brad?
told you I was ready to go, and then I started talking about something unrelated again,
Yeah,
and
you
you hit
did.
record, and I was like, oh no,
No. Yeah, it gives a 3, 2, 1 countdown
hey, you didn't give me one of those. You just went right into it.
because Zencaster does it.
Wow, I wasn't on
But
that.
anyway, we're finally recording because Comcast is terrible.
Yeah, does your house still have internet or not
They finally showed up.
today?
Yeah.
So
No.
that's what
No, last night. They were supposed to show up today originally.
4 or 5 days,
Yeah. So
Thursday to Monday night. Oof.
Thursday night, a dump truck, like a landscape dump truck towing a construction trailer with another landscape dump truck on top of it.
Right, it was like dump truckception.
Yeah, yanked the cable wire off my house.
Right. So
And my neighbor's
apparently,
house apparently.
a landscape truck carrying another landscape truck is taller than an 18-wheeler.
Yeah, I mean barely. I've watched 18 wheelers go by, just barely touched this wire. This is the second time it was torn down this year. It was torn down on Super Bowl Sunday but it was a snowstorm and the snow weighed it down and the dump truck grabbed it.
Right.
Understandably during a snowstorm.
Sure. I mean,
Uh,
I think it should still be higher. Like, did Comcast build a stanchion off your house now to raise it another couple of feet? Because they probably should.
yeah, so it's like at the same level as the power cable now,
Okay.
and it's so before it just ran across the street. It was just bolted to the little cable distribution thing on the pole. Now it's actually looped up and lagged into the pole.
Okay. So that makes more sense then. So
But
this
anyway, they were
repetitive
supposed to
problem
come
should be
out.
over now.
Yeah, and the last time they came out the next day, and I was like, all right, whatever. Surprising because it was like a snowstorm. But then this last time they were like, oh yeah, they'll be out between 6:30 a.m. and 11:30 p.m. And I was like, what? That seems insane. Nobody's going to do that. And
11:30
sure enough,
p.m.
yeah.
Huh.
And sure enough, nobody ever showed up. Never confirmed an appointment. Never sent me an email for like 3 days. And then we finally got a confirmed appointment, and it was on Tuesday.
It's so annoying.
And then finally, like, we did finally get to like a higher up person. And they're like, well, it turns out it was because they needed to get a police detail because you're a busy street. I'm like, well, I wish they just told me that. I would have been fine if I'd called them up Thursday night, Friday morning, and they were like, all right, next appointment's Tuesday. Okay, that's fine. I would have been waiting every day for 3 days for someone to show up.
Yeah, Comcast's not known for their best customer service, obviously.
Plus, like, I know police officers in Peabody.
Right?
I'm like, hey, you want to come do a detail?
Yeah, request one. I don't think that's how it works, but if it is, that'd be great. Well, at least it's fixed now, so that next week when you're, you know, ready to record again, you'll be able to record again. So obviously you're recording from elsewhere tonight. I'm sure people can hear the slight difference in sound quality. So
Yeah, I'm traveling for work, so
Yep.
um,
We'll be
hopefully I have enough
back to
internet to
normal
even
by next
upload
week.
this.
I'm sure you do. If you have enough to record it, you should have enough to upload it. If
Um,
not, then you can just upload it when you get home, and nobody's the wiser.
I'll do it at the office while I'm doing other stuff.
No one knows what day it is when we're
Um,
recording this.
yeah. Hey, you ever heard of the cool guy, old lady thing with cars?
Cool guy, old lady.
Yeah.
Give me a little more than that.
All right. So, like, you know how, like, Crosstreks have all these cool colors
Okay.
or Subarus? It's like either a cool guy or an old lady.
Okay.
And
I haven't heard of that, but
I've found it's the same with uh, Volkswagens too, like
okay.
Golfs,
Yeah, I mean it makes sense, I guess.
because it's like, so like I went to Target the other night or the other day, and I'm in my car, and I parked kind of far away, and then like a space away from me, this lady pulled up in a Mark 7 GTI, Great Falls Green, and like I just happened to get out at the same time. I was like, "Oh, great color!" She's like, "Yeah, it's great color, right?" I'm like, "Yep." Old lady. So,
Hmm.
but then like my coworker I work with, he's got the same Mark 7 GTI, Great Falls Green, cool guy. So it's like you're either a cool
Who
guy or an old lady.
who defines what's old and what's cool?
No, you're either a cool guy or an old lady.
Oh, okay. So like our friend Chris,
Cool
who
guy.
has a Great Falls Green Mark 7 GTI, must be
I
cool
hope.
guy.
Yeah, so I'm like a cool guy,
All right. All right.
but like, if nine
I
times
mean,
out
you're
of
not a
10,
cool guy because you don't have a GTI. You have an all-track station
but it's a
wagon.
cool color.
Okay, sure. But you're more, like, you lean more towards old lady.
Yeah, there's a lot of old ladies that drive all tracks.
Yeah.
It's usually old ladies. Same thing with same thing with cross tracks. Like if you see a bright orange cross track, it's typically an old lady.
Yeah. I mean, and define old lady because, I don't want to, we don't want to not offend people. So is an old lady somebody who's 60 or somebody who's 75?
I guess it's a someone over 50.
Oh, wow. That's, uh, that's cutting it close. It's cutting it close. I don't think I like that one yet. That's only 10 years my senior. Oof. Anyway, so I'm going to cross the threshold from cool guy to old lady real fast.
Yeah, but only if you had like a. You gotta get like a semi-popular car that comes in really bright colors.
Okay. I see it. I have noticed that actually with the orange Subaru Crosstreks. It always
I
is
see it
like
a lot with GTIs,
an old
and I
lady.
see it a lot with all tracks and cross tracks.
Well, I don't have to worry about it because I never buy the popular car in a bright color. So I think that I'll forever be
I
a cool lady.
guarantee you that with your Volkswagen wagon, there's a lot of old ladies that drive them.
Honestly, and I can only say this based on red wagons because what I notice the most. It's mostly dudes who seem to be about my age.
Graybeards?
Gray hairs, maybe if they don't have beards. But yeah, there was another one that when I first moved out here and I was doing the Uber before I got an actual job out here, there was another guy in an identical tornado red wagon TDI that did Uber pretty much on the same schedule I was. It seemed because we were always at the airport parking lot at the same time. And the only identifiable differences between our cars were his had a broken taillight and a broken headlight and a dented rocker panel. But other than that, it was the same car as mine, and we were always together in the same place. And he was probably, if I had to guess, in his early to mid 40s. And everybody else I see with one is generally what seems to be like maybe an older car enthusiast. So older meaning like early middle age, which is where I classify myself. I think um, in the year of 2021, that's probably where we're at, right? 40 is like early
Probably.
middle age, yeah. So somebody in the early middle age, somebody who probably grew up with GTIs like myself or other sports cars and had to grow up a little bit and bought the station wagon. Actually, that would be you too. So not quite
Yeah.
as yeah, almost the same age, a couple years behind me, but you know, early middle age, grew up with sports cars, needed a more responsible adult vehicle, and went with the sportiest option possible, which is a golf wagon. So I get it, and I haven't noticed the old ladies driving it. I do notice that orange Subaru Crosstreks are almost exclusively driven by little old ladies.
Yeah. Easy to spot in the parking lot.
Hey, it's funny.
But there's like 10 of them at a time.
I used to notice that back in the '90s, like the mid to late '90s, that '80s 3 Series BMWs were all driven either by a young punk kid or an old lady. So
Hmm.
I guess that kind of is the same genre of things.
GTIs, I'm telling you, and Golf Rs, you'll notice now, it'll be like a young person, cool guy, or it'll be like an old lady.
Okay. I have a coworker who I would, I shouldn't guess women's ages, but I would guess his mid 30s who has a Golf R. So
But
it's
I
either
think
a
it's
cool
because
guy or an old lady.
it's just like it's like one of the best hot hatches you could buy for the money. So
Oh, it
that's probably
certainly
why.
is. And
Because there's
and
not very many options as for hatchbacks. I think
and it
that's the
came in
only.
violet purple, which she fell in love with.
I think it's like the
So
only true hatchback you can buy.
yeah, it probably is. I mean, I guess the Crosstrek is kind of a hatchback, just a little taller. I
Yeah,
would I wouldn't go so far as to call it an SUV or anything. But that's an interesting thought. I've never thought about that. And but like I said, thinking back to 3 Series BMWs in the mid to late '90s, it was the same. Probably moving into the 2000s, Acura Integras were like that. Acura Integras were always like a
Yep.
what was that DC Integra, the 4 round headlights. Those are always driven by like either a young guy or an old lady and nothing in between. So I guess I agree with this without ever even known it existed. So neat. So the elephant in the room questions.
Yeah.
We asked questions like forever ago, and we had never answered them because we did a whole podcast where we forgot to go back to the questions we asked
We totally
because we
did.
got carried away and spent an hour rambling about other things. So, do you have questions pulled up, Andrew, to go through?
I do have questions pulled up. So these are the oldest ones.
Perfect. This is on Instagram or Facebook.
I'm looking at Instagram.
Okay.
I actually was smart this time. I just screen grabbed them, so I don't have to
Oh,
switch between
perfect.
apps.
Then I'm just going to let you do it then because I was
Yep.
sitting here trying to load the apps up.
Nope.
So, you could read the
Uh,
questions.
analog smog. Analog underscore smog. I'm going to be putting a new start on my Toyota 20R. And I'm thankful most repairs on old cars are much easier than new cars. But it got to me thinking, can you think of any situation where it's the other way around for DIY mechanic, where doing X repair on a newer car would have been easier? Can it just be a general thing or something specific on a car to a car you've owned? Hmm.
Mm. I don't know that anything would be easier on a new car than an old car because most of the repairs that you would do on a new car are sorry, let me rephrase that. Most of the repairs that you would do on an old car are still relevant on a new car. They've just been complicated by more things on top of it. Like on an old car, you would have to change a starter, do an oil change, change your spark plugs. All that stuff still exists on a modern car. It's just been overcomplicated with new things on top of it, right? So I don't know. Maybe like plugs and wires is easier now because you just do a
There's
coil
no
on.
wires.
Yeah, there's no wires. It's just
Individual
coil
coil
on
packs.
plug. Yeah, maybe that's
Um,
one I can think
yeah,
of.
as long as they're on top, a four cylinder, it's easy.
I mean, there are things you don't have to worry about anymore that are on older cars that are not in new cars. Like you don't have to worry about points. You don't have to worry about setting dwell and timing and all that stuff as much. Most of that is done through the
I mean,
ECU.
haven't had to do that for like 30 years, but
Well, I know, but I'm just thinking of old car to new car. So he's working on a 20R. He's working on a vehicle that could
oh,
still
okay.
have points, could still have all that stuff. I'm not talking about a 93 here. I'm talking about a 70 something. So the 20R
Yeah,
would
I
be
think,
pretty old.
well, actually, on a lot of, so like that generation of like 80s Toyota
Yeah, I
and
think he
80s
has a
Japanese stuff,
Toyota Corona, I think is what he has.
okay. But what I was about to say, so that, in that generation of stuff, I think doing brakes is actually harder because the rotors are captured.
Yep, that's a valid point. So okay,
Uh,
yeah. So in general, brakes because captured rotors and drums.
yeah,
Whereas most new cars, not all, but most new cars have 4-wheel disc brakes with just regular rotors that are not captured, so you don't have to deal with
yeah,
wheel
brakes are
bearings and grease.
so easy to do. Disc
Yeah,
brakes on a new car.
as long as you know what you're getting into. Because if you do brakes like in your Volkswagen, you need a special tool to turn the pistons back in. But
Yeah, most cars in the
yeah, but
rear.
nope. But knowing that going into it, so well, the Volkswagens especially, even electric e-brake, right?
No,
Oh, you don't.
mechanical. Nope,
Oh, okay.
mechanical.
So I know for a fact that the modern Volkswagens with the electric e-brake, you have to have some kind of a special tool to do it.
Yeah,
You can't just
yeah,
do it with your
that makes it
at-home
worse. But
tools.
in
Yeah,
general, I
but
think
it's
brakes are
still but
easier
going
on
into
modern
it
cars.
knowing that it's still easier to do that than it is to do
Uh,
a set of drums in an old car.
bolt-in wheel bearings have become more prevalent. Way easier.
Yep.
You don't need to press anymore, as long as it
Right.
doesn't get stuck. But it also makes it easier to get out if it is stuck because you can hammer the bolts out
Right.
and
You don't
push
have to
the
actually
wheel bearing.
hammer on the no more pickle forks and
Yeah,
annoying parts. Yeah, I think that those are probably the best opinions of that. I can't think of anything else that would be easier or harder. I mean, most things in general are harder because they're and it's
McPherson struts so easy to change.
yep, yeah, springs and stuff on McPherson strut setups are easier than like a double A arm in a you know 1960s car where you have to compress a spring on the car and hope it doesn't kill you. At least by compressing springs on a McPherson strut, you have more control over everything. So I agree with that too. But yeah, overall, obviously, I think that at the end of the day, it comes down to lefty loosey, righty tighty. Like it's not tremendously difficult to work on a vehicle. It's more a lesson in patience and knowing how to get to what you're doing. And new cars aren't much more difficult than older cars as far as actually working on the car. It might just be more involved as far as taking things apart. I think where the overcomplication comes is diagnostics. So it used to be simple on an old car because it could only be one of a couple things. And then you went into the 80s and 90s and cars got more difficult and more harder and harder to diagnose what the problem was. And then you got into OBD2 and you were able to diagnose them pretty easily as long as it was something that was in the ECU. But I think some diagnostics in modern cars is a little harder than
I think they're
older
even
cars.
as long as you get the scan tools, the newer cars are even easier.
As long as you have scan tool, I guess maybe you're right too. I don't know. I think that you're probably right. I think brakes are probably the biggest thing that's easier on new cars.
Mm.
I really hate doing captured rotors, especially on a front wheel drive car. Captured rotors in like a rear wheel drive car that has a normal wheel bearing in the front aren't as bad, but captured rotors on a front wheel drive car where you have the wheel bearing and the axle and everything all integrated together is kind of a
Yeah,
pain. My brown 1980 Colt was an absolute disaster to do front brakes on. It took
yeah.
me
The
way
Montero is
too
that
long.
way. I'm not looking forward to doing the rotors.
Oh, that's right too. The Montero was that way too.
Yeah,
I remember doing them on my red truck. So, but it's one of those things that once you've done it once, you know how to do it. It's not tremendously difficult. It's just kind of a pain. Question number 2.
Judge underscore Mills. What's a car that's on your buy list in 2022? Or if you aren't buying, what are you selling?
Everything. Cleaning house. I don't know. I don't have anything on my buy list yet.
I don't either.
Um,
I
I'm
need
not
to sell some
sure.
stuff
Yeah, I'd like
before
to
I
sell
buy
some
stuff.
stuff. I also don't want to say I'm not buying anything because that always never works out. Um, I usually wind up buying things. I'm currently doing something stupid right now, so um, yeah, I don't know what's on my buy list or sell list. I know that my Volkswagen is on the sell list. I've talked about that a few times. I still haven't done the clutch in the car. It's just gotten worse. It's at the point now where it's barely drivable, so I should probably do that. Um, Going to sell that, and then have the Saab be my daily for a little bit. And honestly, probably 6 months to a year, I'll probably be selling the Saab as well. And I may sell the Saab and the Eclipse at the same time. I'm not sure yet. And use that money to put towards something slightly more exciting. So
Yeah,
we
I
shall
don't have any
see.
space, so things would have to get sold. But I also kind of like most everything I have.
Yeah,
So,
I like what I have, and I'm also out of space, which is why I'm thinking of moving some things. So I also was somebody hit me up about the Galant today to buy that as well. So I need to chat with them a little bit and see where we're at numbers wise, and that may be sold too. So maybe this question is more poignant than I thought it was.
hmm.
Um, I am currently bidding on a car at auction.
Oh,
Yeah. So being as that I work at one of these auction sites now, it's really a dangerous place. It kind of like having a drug addict work in a drug distribution facility. I'm addicted to cars, obviously, and my job requires me to follow the market every day. So I'm constantly in other auction sites, so I don't miss much that comes up for sale anymore. And there's a site that's not very popular. It only has, I don't know, 5 or 6 cars listed on it right now, and one of them is a 1981 or 82, I forget exactly, Toyota Cressida. Now the thing is, the car is only 4 hours away from me, so it's like a day trip to go pick it up with a trailer, and it's a no reserve car. And I'm the current high bidder at $300, and there's only a day left in the auction. So here's where my problem lies with this car, though. These auction sites, the way they work is there's a buyer's premium, which is usually a percentage of the sale. Most of them are somewhere between 4.5 to 6.5%. but there's also usually a minimum, and most of them have like a $200 or a $250 minimum.
Ooh.
So when you're talking about a car, it's $300, and you have a $250 buyer's premium. That $300 car is already $550. This particular website's buyer's premium minimum is $450.
Whoa.
Right. So when you're talking about a car that's maybe $1,000 car, a giant percentage of that is going to be chewed up. A giant percent of your budget is going to be chewed up by this buyer's premium. So if it's $1,000 car and it's got a $450 buyer's premium, then I can
Hmm.
only bid up to $500 and still get the car. So if somebody bids me at $400 or $300, they go to 400 because it's $100 increments. I can go to 500 and be at
Yeah.
$950 and be under $1,000 and be cool with it. But once he bids up, if somebody bids beyond me now to 600, now I have to spend 700 plus 450. Now it becomes a losing proposition, and I don't want it anymore.
Hmm.
And if we were talking about a $3,000 or $4,000 car, it wouldn't be as big of a hit. But on a car that's, listen, is the car worth more than $1,000? Absolutely, but there's a lot of unknowns. Its car was somebody bought a piece of property. The car was there. It's been sitting for 12 years. It does run and drive. But I'm not looking to get into it for 2 or 3 grand. It's something that if I can pick it up for $1,000, I was going to buy it. Because why not? It's a running, driving car. It's clean. It's straight. It's in New Mexico. No rust. Um, Figure that we'd have a car that I could clean up and drive and get out from under pretty easily. But the more I spend, the less that makes sense. So I think that we'll see what happens. Right now, I'm the high bidder at $300. So we'll keep an eye on that, and I may be taking a road trip this weekend to pick up another Cressida. We'll see.
Huh.
But last time I tried to buy something online really cheap, it wound up going for way more money than I expected. So that may be the case with this, or it may not. But we'll see what happens. I'm going back to old Brad, unfortunately, but at least most things get worked on and run.
Mm-hmm.
Next question. Actually, yeah. Moving on.
All right. So
I
next will
said too
be
much.
original questions. Chris Mahi Mahi. So we're now on Facebook. Uh, my 15-year-old son wants an older car for his first car, specifically an RX-7. As a car guy, I love his passion, but as a parent, it scares me. What should I do?
You spoke too fast. I missed the end of the question. Did you say, but as a parent, it scares him?
Yes.
Okay.
As a car guy, he
Well,
loves his passion, but as a parent, it scares him.
as the parent of a child who got their driver's license this year, it doesn't matter what they drive, it's going to scare you.
Yeah.
I think that the best move, if you're financially able to swing this move, I think the best move is to get him a sensible daily.
And then just
And
share Chris's RX-7.
no, not share his current RX-7, but pick up another, a project car for him to work on the weekends. Something he can play with. Not a full project, something that already runs and drives. Maybe it's a little bit ugly. He can improve the way it looks and do some minor things here and there. And that way it won't be his daily transportation. He won't have to worry about driving it. You have to worry about your son driving the car every day. Um, my daughter is driving a 2007 Subaru Impreza, non WRX automatic. She's not a car person, so it's fine. She does not have any interest in buying a old fun car, so I'm okay with that. But I think that something in the early 2000s is probably a good place to put a kid. Just two main reasons. One, obviously, safety and airbags. But the second thing is, and I'm not saying anything wrong about Chris's son's driving skills, but kids tend to bump into things in their cars. And if he's driving an RX-7, it's going to be a lot harder to get replacement parts. And if he's driving something fairly normal and sensible from the mid 2000 years, which you can buy something for 4 or 5 grand in the 2005, 2006, 2007, something reliable with easy to find replacement parts, I think is a more important thing than having the most fun car as his daily. Um, you and I both had sensible cars for a first car, and I think that probably kept us out of more trouble than anything else, right?
Probably.
I mean, I had a 1985 Oldsmobile Cutlass that had maybe 53 horsepower um, when it ran right. And you had what, a 1980? What year was your Volvo?
86.
86 Volvo 740
Mm-hmm.
that had maybe three more horsepower than my Cutlass. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, we couldn't get in trouble in those cars if we tried. And I know that once I got out of my Cutlass and I got into my Eagle Talon, my driver's license was not with me much longer after that because I drove the car around too fast and I got in trouble all the time. And that was being older than just 16. So if I had that quick sports car when I was 16, I think there may have been some issues. So I think the right move is to get a sensible, normal car for them, something cheap, something that won't take all the money from their fun little weekend project. And if the budget's there for that, then that's what I would do. If the budget's not there for that, then get something, you know, slightly less sensible but the same era and a manual, and they'll have fun with that until they can buy their own second car. What do you think? Do you agree?
Yeah.
I mean, you have a son. He's a couple years away from driving age. You know,
It's
he's
like a lot. It's like 16 years away from it.
16 years is going to go by before you know it, Andrew. And he's going to be driving, and he's going to want to drive your 400 horsepower Eagle Talon. So
He
anyway,
won't want it. It's like that's a that's a 50-year-old car, Dad. I don't want that.
I think that if he's raised by you, he may want that. You did name him Eagle Talon, so
Yes. Yeah.
God imagine. For those who do not know, Andrew's son's name is not Eagle Talon.
No.
That was definitely an inside joke.
It'd be
But
horrible.
yeah, no, I'm super
No, it's
excited
actually
that
Galant VR4.
yeah, yes, I'm super excited that his son wants to get into sports cars and wants to get into something fun, and I think it's a super cool place to make a goal. But I think that you know it might be something that he can enjoy with Chris on the weekends right now, and just drive Chris's car with Chris present until he gets some actual driving experience under his belt. But I apologize to your son for giving this advice and telling you not to let him get an RX-7. Sorry for the Corolla you inevitably wind up in. But I mean, again, like my daughter has that '07 WR, '07 Impreza. You could buy a non-turbo Impreza 5-speed, and he'd probably enjoy that immensely as a 16-year-old. You know, it's a good handling car. It's safe. It's not super fast. And it's got a manual, so it'll be fun to drive. I see something like that as a pretty good place to put a kid as a car enthusiast, don't you?
Yeah. He'll eventually end up as a rally driver.
That's fine. I mean, even if he doesn't, you and I both had all-wheel drive cars in our late teen years, and neither one of us wound up being rally drivers, despite our best efforts. Our
Hmm.
wallets just never agreed. So anyway, that's my opinion. I think that I'm excited for him. I just think that we need to dip our toes into the water before we dive in, right?
Yep.
Next.
All right. So that was the first questions. Then I did a second post to try to get some more questions, but I just posted pictures of my engines with maple things on them.
Yes, it was a disaster.
Um, Mostly just because my joke was that I should just ask how to keep mice out of my car.
Right.
So everybody just give me advice.
Yes, they did. You had a lot of interaction on that post. Everybody gave you the same advice that we've tried, though. Unfortunately, we all
Yeah.
appreciate the advice, but it's nothing we didn't know, and apparently, it doesn't work on the mice in Andrew's yard.
Yeah.
It's
So
your
then somebody else said, no, those are chipmunks. But I don't know. I found mice. I don't know. I mean, now that G20 engine bay, like I had dryer sheets in there. Now it has more dryer sheets. I mean, I had sprayed peppermint spray. I'd sprayed peppermint spray in the Montero, the dryer sheets. Got um, old, no, Irish Spring. I'm like old Irish, old English, like Irish Spring soap in the
old
interior.
English.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know. I just have to keep tracking it. Keep checking it.
I wound up with an engine for your car in my yard.
Yeah, I heard.
Yeah, I have an SR20 and transmission in my side yard right now.
Like separate from the car?
Yes, they're not in the car. Yes, this project is a project. Um,
Well, let me finish with a question here because
okay.
I also had from Andy underscore the underscore X underscore tech. Uh, Not sure if it works, but I was told yesterday that WD-40 works. They don't like the smell. I'm going to try it. That'd be
Un-
fine to spray your entire engine bay with WD-40.
underscore. I was going to underscore say underscore. Am I supposed to spray the entire engine bay with it? Just like hose it down,
Sure, why
or
not?
do you put like a little bit of it in a cup somewhere under the hood?
You could do that,
Because that
or you
sounds like
could
to me like they would probably try to drink it and then just die. I mean, either way,
you
the
could
problem's over.
you could spray your whole engine bay too and keep it from rusting.
That's true.
Yeah,
I've
uh,
already forgotten about rust, Andrew.
yeah. Stunt nuts 4130 have a. He says have a heart trap set beside the front wheels. Already caught me a handful of chipmunks over the fall. So that must be like a catch and release one.
The have a hearts are the ones that they run into and then the trap door closes and they're just trapped in
Mm,
there. But you have to remember about them, or else they're even more cruel than the other kind because you just slowly starve them to death if you don't check them all the
yeah,
time. So have a hearts do work, but then you also now have a chipmunk or animal or God forbid a skunk in a cage, and you have to get rid of this being from that cage somehow. And you inevitably wind up with skunks in there, and then it's just a huge pain in the ass. So, in my personal experience,
all right. But Sigma underscore Woodcraft. Do you guys have any tips or preparations for daily driving an old car? And then he also followed up with I'm used to modern cars, so I don't even know the '90s basics.
I mean, it's no different than it was in the '90s. The only difference now is I know he lives in Maine, and if he's
Yeah,
going to be driving this '90s vehicle through the winter, he needs to make sure he gets some really good undercoating, a combination of New Hampshire oil undercoating and um, what's that peanut butter stuff?
peanut butter stuff,
Yeah, the brown stuff he sprayed in the bottom of the Subaru.
fluid film.
Fluid film. There you go.
That's not made from peanut butter.
No, I know, but it looks and smells like peanut butter.
That would be why I would have mice.
That's true.
No, it's like plant oils.
Yeah, but it looks and smells kind of like peanut butter. So,
I guess to me it smells like a farm.
okay.
It's just like vegetables. Like
It maybe it's just my power of suggestion looking at the color and smelling a vegetable based smell thinking that it's peanuts. Even though obviously vegetables are not peanuts. But I'm aware of this before we get complaints into the show. I was actually just talking about this because I have a weird um if you don't tell me what something is and you make me taste it, I have a hard time telling you what it is.
a lot of people are like that.
Yeah, like Naomi brought me home a coffee and she's like, "Oh, tell me what flavor this is." And I took a sip of it and I was like, "I don't know. I really can't tell."
Hazelnut.
I can tell you what it's not. I was like, "It's not pumpkin. It's not French vanilla." I was like, "Maybe eggnog," and she's like, "It's eggnog." I was like, "All right, cool, I get it." But eggnog latte. But unfortunately, and it's delicious and I love it. But I couldn't tell you what it was without knowing what it was. I don't have something about the taste of things. Some people could taste it and tell you immediately what it is. I can't do it. So anyway, yeah, so that's really it. I mean, other than making sure you have common failure parts on hand, just because if you have something from the '90s and it is your daily, and you need an alternator and it's 3 days away, it'd be nice to have an extra one. You know,
Yeah,
have belts, have alternator, starter, stuff that will strand the car for a few days, but it's a simple fix because you can't get parts.
yeah. Check all the
I would,
fluids.
yeah, I would recommend having that and keeping a container in the back with the key fluids, oils, coolant. I usually have an extra coolant uh, bottle of coolant and an extra upper and lower hose just in case. You know, all the typical simple failure points I like to keep up. Make sure if it's a '90s vehicle that you like WD-40 your rubbers are on your doors because they'll freeze shut if you don't do that because they don't seal quite as well as modern cars. And I used to always carry a thing of lock de-icer in my pocket because inevitably those old locks used to freeze up in the wintertime, and you don't have keyless entry. So it's nice to have that lock de-icer to spray in there and unfreeze the locks. But other than that, a '90s car isn't. It's not like you're driving a '50s car. You know what I mean? So it should
Hmm.
be pretty modern otherwise. So I'm about to drive a '97 across country, so I should take my own advice, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, Steve Booton. I need to replace my truck that I sold, and I'm considering a third gen Montero. Is this the move? Those wide arches are begging for six lug TEs.
What truck did he sell?
I think he sold a Zuzu. He's definitely getting rid of his. Pretty sure he's getting rid of the Ford that's under lemon law.
Is it
His
really?
like modern Ford, yeah.
What happened with that?
I know it just kept going back. I forget what the problem was. I remember he told me about it. I'm not Washington, but now I forget.
Interesting. I did not know that. That
I'll have to
sucks.
check it out.
That truck was one of the coolest modern trucks out there. Yeah, it all decked out perfectly. That sucks. Yeah, if he's getting rid of his daily driver, a third gen Montero is probably. I mean, once they're sorted, they're good, right?
Yeah, I sent him a couple. I mean, they're still around like 2 or 3 grand.
I mean, you got to make sure the timing belt is done, and you have that transfer case issue with the
It's the
vacuum
switches.
plugs switches. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like the 6 switches, 5 or 6
I
switches.
mean, once you've done those switches and you've done the
Maybe it's
timing
a
belt
brake. Yeah, maybe a brake accumulator.
and you've done the brake accumulator and you've done
Rear.
the ball joints and stuff. I mean, that's good
No,
for
ball joints. I can't.
just check them, obviously. But I think
Yeah,
that once you've done all those things, the truck's good for a solid sixty
yeah.
thousand miles without even touching it
They
from that
they
point.
used to go through front wheel bearings. Rear calipers would seize because they rust.
Sure,
Rear adjuster bolts seize
for the alignment.
alignment.
Okay.
However, now because they're becoming more popular platforms, um, our friends Adventure Design has stuff for them.
Yep.
There's also Luso Overland is doing a lot of replacement parts carrying for them.
Yeah, I think right now is the time to get into a third gen, just because of the burgeoning popularity of them. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming out. I think they're at that critical point where they go from being just old, used up trucks to like SU collectible almost SUVs. So yeah, I think now would be the time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I fully support this. They're another one of those trucks where they're old, but they're modern enough to use every day. And if you drove an F250 every day, the fuel mileage isn't going to be an issue.
No,
That's the one probably worst part about them. They don't get great fuel mileage, but they're big, comfortable. They're unibody. They ride nice, and they still good off
they
road.
sold a
So
lot
yeah,
of them too. They're a lot more common than first and second gens.
yep, absolutely. They're a lot more truck than a first and second gen. You know what I mean? They're a
Yeah,
lot more.
they're
You got
basically a Lexus
yeah, you get a lot more for your
equivalent.
money. Yep, they were like a discount version of a Lexus without actually being discount in quality. They were very nice trucks inside.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
I
Mitsubishi built
wholeheartedly support that.
basically Diamantes and those Monteros were basically Lexus and like Acura fighters, but without the name recognition.
Again, it's Mitsubishi and their lack of marketing killed them every time.
Yes,
I honestly think though that with those vehicles, if they had created a separate luxury brand like Lexus or Acura, I
Diamond brand,
I mean, I bet it would have taken
Diamond
off.
Motors.
I bet it would have taken off
Yeah.
because those cars are equivalent of those for sure. And then they could have used they could have made a premium version of the at the time the third gen Eclipse to compete with like the G20 and Integra and stuff. But I don't know that Mitsubishi marketing is fraught with errors since the 70s. That's
Mm-hmm.
just another one of those bad moments. But no, that'd be cool. That's a neat truck, and he's got that big tent that he had in the roof of his or in the rack of his F250. You could probably support that up on the roof of the Montero and use some of the lights that he has, and yeah, that would be cool. And I definitely support the TE decision.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good look on that truck.
All right, one more question. We'll wrap this up for questions. Uh, Eric Vogel. 10 years ago, Saab Automobile officially filed for bankruptcy. Which brand, if any, have filled their niche in the marketplace?
Which brand have filled Saab's niche?
Yeah,
I mean, the easy go to is Volvo, right?
I think Subaru.
So I've made this comparison before. Um, Saab has always been an upmarket brand. Volvo used to be like one level under Saab as far as luxury
Mm,
goes, I think.
I don't think so.
No?
No.
Comparing like
I mean,
a
I've made this argument too that it was like Audi, Volvo, Saab were not really luxury brands in the early days.
yeah, they're kind of a premium middle of the road brand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Um,
maybe Saab and
they've gone
Volvo
up
were at the
market over
same
the
level.
years. Volvo became more expensive. People used to own Volvos because they're sensible, practical cars that lasted a long time. Switched to Subarus in the late 90s, 2000s.
Yeah, for sure.
And then now you've just got that. That's why Subaru just exploded with sales and brand loyalty.
Yeah. So maybe Saab
I think you
Saab
probably have a
owners
lot of
also
Saab
probably went
people
to Subarus.
went to Subarus too. Because there was a lot of Saab Subaru dealers.
Yeah, and they had the crossover vehicle there, the 92X.
Airplanes, the whole airplane thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Oh, yeah, the
92X,
92X. Yeah.
which
It's
was
got
the
to be Subaru.
The
That's my
Sabaru.
answer.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong, and you're probably right. That's why Subaru got so big when it did, because they were taking all of the Volvo buyers that did not want to spend 50 or 60 grand in a Volvo, that used to spend 20 or 30 grand in a Volvo, and they took all the Saab buyers. So yeah, that makes sense. I'll go with that. That checks out.
All right, cool. Finish those questions.
Hey, you sound like you're
We
making
didn't forget to do this time.
coffee over there or something.
Oh yeah, I had some water.
Yeah, lots of noise.
Sorry,
Lots
not,
of
not
noise.
using the regular mic, so I can't mute.
Oh, okay. I was like, what the hell's going on over there?
Yeah, yeah. It's just like just using a laptop, like I'm on a conference call.
Gotcha.
Anyway, uh, M Sport debuted an M Sport Panda, like a Fiat Panda.
Yep.
It's all done up like a M Sport rally car, like a Fiesta.
Yep. Super cool.
I
I think it's
honestly, when
actually
I first saw the picture of it, I was like, "Ah, it's a render, whatever," and I ignored it. And then I realized there was a YouTube video of it.
yeah, no, it's a real car.
Oh
I
yeah,
It's super cool. I don't
it's
remember what
really
it's
cool.
powered by.
I don't
I
know,
think it has the Fiesta engine. It does.
probably.
Yep. So it's basically a Fiesta R5 underneath a Fiat Panda body with like these like super square box flares, like
Yeah, I don't know
actual
why they built
box
it.
flares.
Like,
Why not?
yeah, it was like a winter project. I don't know. It was just cool.
Yeah, boredom, I guess.
Yeah.
But no, it's super dope. Um, I like Fiat Pandas because of course I do. And to see one with like box flares and that crazy driveline, it actually reminds me of the MG Metro Rally car, the Group E car.
Mm,
It's a very similar style to that. What's cool about the Fiesta? So these are Fiesta R5s. These are the front engine ones, right? Yeah.
yes, the rally cars are front engine.
Okay. Well, I was thinking about the rear engined Fiestas and Rally Cross, but it's not that. It's the front engine one. But yeah, it's really neat. Just Google it. I guess it's Google or M Sport Fiat Panda,
Yeah, it's on
and
YouTube. It's
a
really
bunch of
good.
pictures of it come up, and
Short
it's
video. It's good.
yeah, it's a rad little car. So
Other huge car news, at least for like enthusiasts, I guess. Tire Rack was purchased by Discount Tire,
yep,
which seemed kind of insane to me. I don't know why I didn't. But when you talk about it, you're like, yeah. Or when you think about it, you're like, yeah, Discount Tire is really big.
they're huge.
Yeah,
I learned today that the guy who owns Discount Tire is the richest man in Arizona.
that makes sense.
Yep. I mean, I pulled up what a 10-mile radius of my house, and there were like 12 Discount Tire stores.
Hmm.
So, and all they do is tires and
Yeah,
wheels.
and I guess
No mechanic work.
it's America's Tire in California.
So it's Discount Tire, America's Tire, and now Tire Rack are all one company.
Yeah,
And
makes sense because they'll probably I don't. Is there Discount Tires out here?
there are some popping up. Um, and there's some America's Tires I think out there now too.
Yeah.
They're buying some local chains up, which is
Yeah.
welcome to corporate America, right? Everything is owned by one company, and it's happening with tires now. However, I'm hoping it's not a bad thing because I actually exclusively use Discount Tire now out here because their service is so good. Um, I have a credit card with them that literally gets me zero interest every time I buy tires, and I just pay them off over like 4 or 5 months without even worrying about it at zero interest. Like, and I have a lot of cars, so I have a lot of tires.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's funny because I usually end up using either Discount Tire online or Tire Rack,
yep,
depending on what tire I'm looking for and who has it, because they don't always have the same tires.
correct. Well, now they will.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is that what I like about Discount Tire is if you buy the tires from them, and it's like an extra $20 for their roadside assistance. Not roadside assistance, excuse me. Let me change that. Their lifetime warranty is $20 for the lifetime warranty, and you get lifetime rotations for free. And I do everything with them because you roll in, they rotate your tires, they send you on your way. And then if you get a flat, no matter for what, even your own fault, you bring it back into them and they give you a tire. And if it's uh, more than or less than 70% worn, they don't even charge you any kind of betterment. They just give you a
Hmm.
brand new tire. So I buy the tires from them for everything now. Um, any tire I've bought since I've lived here has been through Discount Tire. Even the ones in the Eclipse that I had installed in Alabama when I bought the car, I purchased from Discount and had them send out there for all for those
Mhm.
reasons. Because it's just they're such a good company, and they have what's really neat is they have a free airline at every Discount Tire store, and there's so many of them. And you don't even get out of your car. They got a kid that sits outside all day and just fills tires up.
Hmm.
So if you have like a low tire on your way to work, you roll in, he checks all four tires, and sends you on your way. So they're like super customer service based, and I mean they've been relatively affordable for everything. And the other pro tip for all our listeners: if you go into a Discount Tire and you tell them you found that tire cheaper, and you give them any random number that's not ridiculous, they'll just make it that price.
No.
Yeah, pro tip. A coworker of mine did that just the other day. She bought four tires and like four 33-inch off road tires, and they were like $180 a piece or something. And she's like, "Well, I found them online for 160," and they're like, "Okay." They didn't have her prove it. They didn't do anything. They just knocked $20 off each tire.
Nice.
Yep. So I mean, I'm sure if she was like, "I found them online for $32," they might have been a little bit
Yeah.
more, but pick a reasonable number and try it, and they generally will say yes. So that just
Yeah.
means the markup on tires is ridiculous.
I like Tire Rack because they have a distribution center in Connecticut, so I get stuff like next day,
Yep.
and they do a lot of discounts with the SCCA, so you can get your racetrack tires
Excellent.
with like a coupon because they when you do when you do track nights in America, it's sponsored by Tire Rack,
Sure.
so they give you coupons and all that stuff. So
Yeah, I'm assuming
that's why it's
discount will
handy.
probably take all those things as well. But
Yeah.
again, for me, just having that 0% interest credit card is just like it makes it a no brainer to buy tires. Like used to like suck to buy tires and like, oh man, I gotta spend $1,000 in tires today. Now it's just like, all right, I spend $1,000 in tires and I'll just give them $100 every month for the next 10 months and not worry about it. Like it's I don't know, play with their money, right?
Mm.
So and then again, like I said, their service has been second to none. They lost a center cap on Naomi's Hyundai last time we brought it in there, and we went back and we're like, hey, we're missing a center cap, and they like called the Hyundai dealer and bought a new center cap. And then on her car, you have to take the wheel off to put the center cap on, and they brought it right in, popped the wheel off, put the center cap back on for us, and sent us on our way, and didn't charge us a dime, thankfully, but also didn't give us any kind of a hard time. Was just like, oh yeah, probably we'll take care of it. Like there's no issues with them at all. They're a great company. So, but what I do another thing about them is like I said they're just sell tires and wheels. They don't do anything mechanical, so they're super efficient. You never have your car like sitting there like, oh, we took your car apart and realized you needed wheel bearings, so we can't do it. what they'll do is they'll say, "We brought your car in to do wheel bearings. So sorry, to do tires. We noticed your wheel bearings are bad. We'd rather not put the tires on the car. Get the car fixed first." And they don't send you to anywhere specific, so they're not trying to upsell you anything. They're just saying like, "We're not going to put these on your car because you're going to wear them out in 10,000 miles. Please go get your car fixed first." So they're really pretty efficient. They don't even do alignments there. Like you have to bring a car somewhere else to get an alignment
Oh,
when you leave.
weird.
Yeah, that kind of blew my mind. But like I said, it makes sense because now they never have to worry about getting a car on an alignment rack, and now they have an issue with stuck, adjustments and anything else in the car or parts being an issue or anything else like that. They just put your tires in your car and say, "All right, go down the street to your local alignment
Yeah,
shop
I
and
think
get it taken care of."
most repair shops don't care because they don't make any money on tires.
Right.
That's
And
not
it's,
where your money comes from if you own a repair shop.
yeah, and especially in a place that has discount tires, 12 within 10 miles,
Yeah.
they know they're not going to make any money. What blows my mind is that there's still tons of other tire places here. There's a lot of places that are called Lanteras. It's LL Lantera. It's Spanish for tire shop. Um, and they're known locally as the Mexican tire shops. And there's tons of them around that sell used tires. And there's so many tire shops out here because we have no vehicle inspections, so people just drive their cars until the wheels fall off. So there's
Hmm.
like a need for all these tire shops. Also, tires don't last very long out here because 120-degree heat,
Hmm.
so they get pretty worn out pretty quick. But yeah, I'm kind of okay with it. I'm annoyed at the same time because you know one company will everything will be under Walmart eventually, but it is what it is. At least I like Discount Tire.
Yeah.
So anyway, Discount Tire sponsored this podcast. Apparently, I should send them
Yeah.
a copy, see if I can get some cheap
Yeah, I
tires.
guess you should.
I shouldn't do that because I told everybody how to get cheaper tires from them. I guess they won't sponsor us. Oh, anyway, moving on. I see
Yeah.
that the 3G shutdown is going to screw some people up, huh?
Yeah. So if you're not aware, they're shutting down 3G to make room for more cell service and towers because everything's switching over to 5G. Um, and then I guess like I don't know, there was like a bunch. It was kind of a trend between like 2016 and 2019 to have like connected car things.
Yep,
Part of it's like OnStar type stuff.
sure.
It works off 3G. It's not going to work anymore. By the end of, I think the final company to phase out 3G will be Verizon, and I think they're talking December 2022.
Okay.
So, like, you can go online and find it. Like, there's a whole list of cars that have affected features.
This is going to be a problem moving forward on everything, unfortunately.
Well, this is why you just so what car companies just need to do, and I think what most of them are doing, all they're doing is giving you an infotainment system that just has Android Auto or CarPlay in it. And all you need to do is make sure it has that connectivity. Then everything else, the music, the cell service, all of that GPS is contained in the person's phone. That those get updated a lot quicker.
Here's the other problem with that, though, is that eventually that technology is not going to mesh with the current generation of phones either. Like if you have some early Bluetooth stuff, you can't use it with your new phones because
Oh,
the stuff is different.
okay. Well, that's your fault for having an old car, man. I don't.
But I mean, that's the thing is that we listen. We preach the old car. That's our thing.
That's
So come
so.
30 years from
But
now,
so you switch the radio out to something that works. But I'm talking about what's happening with new cars.
yeah.
It's like
And
the
my problem with new cars though is that there's going to be issues because a lot of these cars, BMW is the biggest, part of this. A lot of the features in the car are unlocked through a subscription-based program. So when the car is old, that subscription-based program is not going to be able to be updated if it can't connect to the network anymore.
yeah. Who cares about it? That was dumb for them putting that in.
It was
A
very
lot
dumb.
of car companies, though, are just doing basic head units that just have a screen because you have to have a screen to have backup camera, and all it does is do CarPlay and Android Auto. That's all my wife's car does. That's all my Volkswagen does. We don't have a CD player. We don't have a tape player.
It's funny. My 13 Volkswagen is
Yeah, we
from that.
talked about this like 2 episodes ago. It has
Did
like
we?
all of the
It's all the
things.
options except for cassettes. Yeah.
Yeah,
MP3, CD, and yeah.
I
Anyway.
I'm here. I'm out here for work. I got or similar. I rented the cheapest thing possible, which is Mirage. I still haven't driven one. I keep trying to rent one,
Yeah.
but we got to the row, and they're like, "Yeah, you pick anything you want." You're like, "Okay, well, I'm going to take that brand new Frontier because it's a 2022,
Sure. Yeah, and it's the brand
and
new style too.
it's literally just a touchscreen that I plugged my phone into and it instantly worked."
Yeah. No, that's cool.
Same thing happened when I rented the Outlander Sport.
Yeah, I've
Plugged it
never
in,
used.
CarPlay, boom.
I've never used Android Auto. I'm sure it's fine.
It's
Maybe I should
awesome.
just try
It's
it.
just like it works the same as CarPlay. You plug it in. You can pull up your podcast app. You can pull up Google Maps, whatever you want. Your music app. It'll just play to the dash. Your steering wheel controls work it.
Yeah. When I
Um,
whatever my next long term daily is, I'll have to make sure if it's not new enough to have Android Auto, I'll have to make sure I buy a head unit with it because
yeah, I mean, you
I've
can
never
even
been
get a
able to
single
use it.
din that has a little screen if you really want to show the map.
Yeah, like I said, whatever my next long term daily is, I don't know if the Saab's going to be a long term daily or not, but
As long as you get a head unit that can stream through the USB of the phone,
right,
so it charges at the same time,
sure thing.
perfect. Because that'll even give you the audio of the Google Maps.
Update: I was
Um,
just outbid on the Toyota Cressida,
oh, oh,
so somebody just bid $400.
oh.
It's high stakes here.
All right. So speaking of new cars and Toyotas, Toyota debuted a bunch of renders as EVs. I
Yep,
didn't
it's
really
dumb.
read anything about it. I literally looked at the images and I saw they were renders and I passed it off as whatever.
Yep, it's dumb. Why build me an actual concept car?
Yeah.
I don't care about a render. I get it's kind of the same thing. We're teasing the future just like a concept car would, but it reeks of laziness. I don't like it. They built like an entire fleet of these
Yeah.
renders, like 30 cars. Like this is our future lineup. Like I, what? Like no, it's not. Like
Yeah.
that's what
Right.
one guy thought it is. That's not your future lineup. So no, that's dumb. I don't even want to spend any time on that. It's a render. We're out of it. It's over.
All right.
Real
So
cars.
speaking of electric cars,
Yeah, the future.
what was the last event you went to?
I went to an event called Autopia 2099.
Which was announced on this podcast
It was actually,
last January.
so I need to make sure I went. Couple things about it. One, the name is super cool. Um, because the Autopia attraction at Disney World was originally intended to talk about the future of motoring. So incorporating the Autopia name into this event and calling it 2099 and making it a car show about all electric vehicles or alternative powered vehicles um, is a really cool concept. You know, our friend Bradley Brownell and a couple of other of his friends put the show on. Um, I don't want to say people's names because I'll miss a couple of them, but um,
Well, Ethan Tufts,
yeah,
another former
Ethan
guest.
Tufts and Jeff Glucker were the two main
Yeah.
guys I think that went on. Um, Jeff also is a Montero owner, so we like him automatically, right?
Yep.
So, Gen One owner as well, actually. Um, yeah, it was super cool. So when you hear electric car show, it doesn't always raise interest, right? And then the first thing you think is like, oh, it's gonna be a Tesla dealer.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't have been more wrong. So there were probably 75 cars at the car show. There were 3 Teslas total. So I don't know if Tesla owners are just not into this kind of thing because they're not. I don't know. Some
I
probably
feel like
are.
they want any opportunity to tell you about their car.
Right, but maybe they figured like a all electric car show, they'd just be lost in the sea of other electric car owners. Nobody'd want to hear about their Tesla.
Wouldn't you be lost in the sea of other? Tesla owners at an only Tesla car show?
That's what I mean. Like, do they even exist? Do they even happen?
Would it just be a bunch of Tesla owners yelling at each other about their Tesla? How great it
Right.
is?
But what I'm saying is this
Would it just collapse
Tesla.
into a black hole of Tesla love?
Yeah, that'd be great. So this event was an all electric car show. So I expected it to be a flood of Teslas, like a whole Tesla class. But in reality, there were only 3 Teslas the entire day, 2 of which were very modified, and one of which was a brand new Plaid, which is kind of cool in the performance car side of things. The majority of cars there were either weird off-brand EVs that have come and gone,
Which
or
I like the idea of that. That's kind of
super
cool.
cool, or vintage cars that have been converted to run on electric power,
Mm.
which I was a long-standing hater of, but I've slowly over the past probably year and a half, kind of gotten on board with, and now I am like fully invested. Like I'm down. I don't want every car to be an EV, um,
No, it's the
but
right car
the right car, the right parts, the
and it
car of
done nicely.
the car of the show for me. I'll just get right to it. It actually won Best of Show. Was a 1963 Corvair convertible. It was done so well that if you didn't know, you would just think it was a nicely restored Corvair.
Yeah, and then looking at the pictures you had of it, one of the things that is like aesthetically pleasing and that a lot of show cars do, gas engine cars do, is they do a shaved engine bay.
Yeah,
This thing basically has a shaved engine bay because there's no
yeah,
components that you need.
yeah. They formed like a almost like a bathtub. Actually, it kind of looks like a slop sink, I would say, of like stainless steel panels to go around and shield the electric motor from everything. And it just cleaned up the whole thing. And the other beauty that I like about this style of EV conversion is that technically it's fully reversible because they just made a plate that bolts the electric motor to the factory transmission. So it's still a 4-speed manual bolted to the electric motor. And then everything else, it's a Corvair, so it has that entire frunk where they're able to put some batteries and then put batteries alongside the frame rails in the back where there's not like cylinder heads anymore.
Wherever the fuel tank was.
The fuel tank is somewhere the batteries are, and some of the batteries are next to the motor underneath those metal plates, the
Yeah,
metal
so you can distribute it
snake
around,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, distribute the weight around the car. So now he took this car that, listen, I love Corvairs. I'm sure you at least respect them for what they are. I don't know if you love them or not. They're a super cool car, super neat car. Some weird engineering went on behind them. The engines aren't exactly the most reliable things in the world, and they all leak. So you took the worst part of a Corvair, which is also kind of the coolest part of the Corvair, but that's okay, and put an electric motor in its place. Now you have an electric Corvair that will cruise on the freeway drama free at 80, 85 miles an hour. It's 150 miles of range, which is, not ideal, but for your weekend fun car, that's fine. It can be charged at any of the charging network across America, which obviously needs some work as well, which we can get into later. But overall, it's like I don't see the downside. Like I don't want to see some big block Camaro SS change to electric. I don't want to see Hemi Cudas change to electric. But for the average old car that the motor doesn't add a ton to it, I'm kind of down with it. A big old like 50s cruiser, the engine isn't what you're there for. You're there for the smooth, big old cruiser ride, right? So if you have an electric motor in there instead, you get that big old cruiser ride in total silence. So the one thing I will say is you better make sure that you have everything else tightened down because the engine noise is gone. So every other rattle in the car is probably exasperated. But
Mm.
it's a super cool concept, and for the right vintage vehicle, I'm down with it. I mean, there were a couple of Volkswagens there. That's a super easy one to do as well because the motor just hangs out the back. So you take out the motor and bolt the electric
Yeah.
motor to the
And
stock transmission
NSU
there.
would be a great
The
electric
NSU would be
conversion.
an interesting one to do it too as well because why not, right?
It would
I'm not
actually make
going.
it a it'd make it a faster car. You can actually be
It,
able to do highway
it
speed with
would
it.
it would make most of these cars faster cars. That, like I said, that Corvair could cruise 80 miles an hour now. It probably does 120. Like, I mean, it's cool. I really dig it. I don't know what else to say. The only issue I think of doing it to cars like the NSU is I don't know that that gearbox could handle the torque of an electric motor.
Well, see, that's the thing that comes down to the controls.
Yeah,
You can tune it. You can tune
yeah.
that torque curve.
So a couple
Let
of
me just tell you that from being in the industry now,
yeah, that's
it's
true. So
they can make. I've been told they're like, yeah, we can make this thing just light the tires up, or we
or
can
you
make
can
it
make it
drive
drive
off
like a
really
gas
smooth.
car.
And, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's probably a valid point. So yeah, maybe that is the way. Um, One of the exciting things that came I noticed at the show was that one of the main sponsors of the show was AEM. Um,
I didn't know they made their own control units for
yeah,
Tesla motors.
so they have control units for Tesla motors, and they make all this componentry to take Tesla batteries and Tesla motors and make them work in whatever. So they had two show cars there. They had an S2000 that was a SEMA car from last year, and they had a 2006 Mustang GT. So the cool thing about this Mustang GT, when I was talking to the guy about, and I wish I remembered his name top of my head, but I'll have to look it up. We follow each other on Instagram, and he's a DSM guy. He works for AEM. We were chatting about the Mustang, and so the Mustang runs like 11.2 in the quarter mile.
Nice.
So in order to make an '05 Mustang run 11.2 in the quarter mile with a gas engine, there's no way to make it smog legal in California.
No way.
This doesn't have to worry about that because now you have an 11-second Mustang that you can also drive to the grocery store, and you can still get plated in California.
Yeah, they don't
So
care because it's zero emissions.
yeah, so that in itself to me was kind of like, oh, that's cool. Like we can make that happen now without much drama, and you can literally just drive the thing anywhere because it's just a quiet electric car that will click off 11-second quarter miles. So it was neat to see. I mean, there was all kinds of cool stuff there. There was some pretty hefty money behind it. Nissan was the primary sponsor. They had one of their e Grand Prix cars there.
Yeah,
A couple of their typical EVs. Harley Davidson Livewire. So Harley Davidson was the other main sponsor, and they had all the Livewire motorcycles there. Which did you know they rebranded?
as just live wire.
Just Livewire. They got rid of
Yeah,
Harley off of them. So
yeah,
that's a callback, I think, to an episode where we talked about that the Harley market isn't ready for an electric motorcycle yet.
no,
And I think that Harley must have realized that because they pulled the Harley name off of it. And now it's just called the Livewire as its own separate entity. They also knocked $10,000 off the retail price.
way to get them to let you try one.
It was a $30,000 motorcycle when it was a Harley. Now it's 20.
Yeah,
So by the time you buy that, and now you have all your incentives from the government for buying an electric vehicle, you could be in a brand new live wire for like 13 grand,
mm,
which is a pretty enticing proposition, right?
yeah,
It was neat because Livewire put a bunch of money behind the event. They actually hired Race Service, the motorsports marketing company, to do all the promotions and to do all of the decorations of the area. Um, they brought in a coffee truck that made like fancy coffees the whole day and didn't charge a dime. Like it was a super cool event, and I'm definitely looking forward to next year's. So I got to talk to Bradley about it. I mentioned it in passing, but I think it was during too much else going on that I think it'd be cool to have like an RC slot car section as well. Like that's where people get involved with electric cars. Like you and I grew up with electric cars, just in small scale, right?
yeah. If Tamaya come by,
Yeah, get some of the manufacturers to
are they
come
still
by.
in? Are they still in Southern California?
I do not know, but I know that a lot of like the RC crawlers, the truck style ones, those are American based companies. There's a guy there driving around his little RC Bronco. Um, and as I was like, well, man, that'd be cool to have a little section for that and get some of those manufacturers involved. Because I mean, that's what we grew up with. We had electric cars; they were just small scale.
Yeah,
So it'd be kind of neat to have that there as well. So I don't know. I was super excited by it. I didn't know what to expect. I knew it was going to be a good time just because I know Bradley knows how to be involved with putting on a pretty good event, and did not disappoint. So the one thing I did have to laugh at, the Tesla, one of the Teslas that was modified had a sound box, so he could make it sound like whatever gas car he wanted, and it had external speakers, but it sounded like I don't even want to say Gran Turismo One. It sounded like Sega GT Rally. Like it
Weird.
was definitely digitized. It did not sound good. I think in modern times you should be able to make that sound a little better, but it was definitely a gimmick and it was definitely funny and the kids loved it, but it was definitely odd. And the car was all done up with graphics and lights and lowered, and the guy was all about talking to anybody who walked by about it, making it make the noise all day. So Tesla owners. But yeah, it was funny. But yeah, it was a cool show. Like the Corvair is my car of the show. There were two converted Volkswagen air cooleds, one bus, one Beetle. There was a like a mid early 70s BMW 3.0, the coupe, but it
Hmm.
was just an automatic, like so nothing special.
Hmm.
And that was converted to electric. There was an original Mini that was electric converted.
Yeah, that would seem like a
Um,
good car for that too.
yeah, absolutely. What else? There was a late 30s Jaguar that was electric converted, which purists would be like, oh my God, you can't ruin that car. But he didn't ruin the car. He bought the shell out of a junkyard.
Yeah.
So if he didn't buy that car and electric convert it would be crushed into a cube by now.
This is my point. Um, the way to get people excited about electric cars is to make them not look like little egg cars.
Yeah,
Which,
no, you're
speaking of,
100% right.
didn't somebody with an iMe take a trophy home?
So the trophy was for slow charging, and the woman had a purple iMiv that they bought almost new, and they've had all this time. And she drove it, I think, 55 miles to the
Ooh,
show.
that's about the max range.
So she had to plug it in at the show to get most of the way home. She was talking about how she has 60 miles of range on the highway, but she gets more if she stays at like 50 miles an hour. So she took the extra long way, which added more miles, but she's able to come down the coast at like 45 miles an hour and was able to like pretty much hypermile it to get more range. And she
Oh
pulled
my
in and she
gosh.
had 40% battery left.
This is
So,
my other gripe with Mitsubishi is that said Nissan was the sponsor. Mitsubishi had a full electric EV 10
mhm.
years ago and
Yeah,
they
they
just
were almost the
stopped.
first.
They just didn't
Yeah.
keep expanding on that technology. It
Yeah,
was
they're
really
way out of the
good.
curve. Actually, Naomi and I were behind in IMEF last night in traffic too. We were like, "Whoa, what? So weird."
But
So,
a goofy little golf cart car instead of making it cool looking. I mean, it worked in Japan. Like that was the styling of cars in Japan at the
yep,
time.
just didn't work here.
It was just too Japanese to bring here.
There was a first gen Rav 4 that was there. That was all
Hmm.
electric.
I
And
forgot
that
those
was
existed.
yeah, that was produced by Toyota. That wasn't an aftermarket conversion, so that was cool. I guess the guy who owned it was saying that the only issue is that the degradation of the batteries over the years has gotten a little bit bad, so his range is down a lot. But and it's not worth spending the money to buy the new batteries for
Uh-uh.
it. But
Yeah, that's the other problem.
yeah,
That's
there
the
needs to be
current problem
some
with these conversions. The motors aren't terribly expensive, but
battery
batteries and
technology is.
controllers and all the other stuff is
Yeah.
so.
Well, there's two main sources for batteries right now. Obviously, Teslas, and the other one people use is Ford C-Max.
Yep.
So those are the cheaper ones, but they're less efficient than the ones from the Teslas are. So, and there's a couple different things out there. I guess there's the Nissan Leaf. You're able to tune those to make a lot more power than they make in the Leaf,
Hmm.
and people are using those to power things. And I don't know. There's all kinds of cool stuff, and I'm
You got to work a little bit harder at it, but it exists. It's
you do, and then you have to work a little bit harder to keep it charged up. Unfortunately, there's some issues with the nationwide charging network. Um, it's what needs to happen is it needs to be universal, like getting gas is. You need to be able to pull up with your credit card, put your credit card in, and go to town. You shouldn't have to use multiple apps just to get your fill up on electrons. I think that technology needs to catch up a little bit too. But yeah, if I had some extra money and some extra time, I would look into finding some engineless car somewhere and converting it to electric just because why not, right?
Yep.
I don't think I want to take apart a good running car, but if I found some project car that needed a motor, like the whole way driving home from California, I was like, how could I convert that pickup truck to electric? Like that would be an ideal candidate. It's a pickup
I
truck.
can tell you, it's easier than doing a hybrid conversion
Oh, I'm sure it is. Yeah.
because there's a lot of extra controls.
Yep. Nope. I just want to make it electric. But
Yep.
anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, it was neat. So look up uh, Autopia 2099 on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and follow those guys and check into when the date for the next show is. They definitely want to do another show. Probably January of next year at this point, I think. Well, no, sorry. What month is it? December? December of next year. So
Cool.
should be a good time.
Yeah, we're not. I know we talk a lot about electric cars, but it's just because it's a current thing going on,
Yeah,
and we just like technology. So
yeah. We're not fully anti it. I'm a little bit more on the believer side now. So
yeah, it's coming.
yeah.
Gas cars aren't going anywhere though.
Nope. I don't think in our
They
lifetime
just
we'll see
aren't.
the end of gas cars. I just think that we'll see more electric cars. So
Somebody was complaining that they're gonna stop making parts for gas cars. You buy up all your parts now, or sell your gas cars now at the top of the market. It's like,
sure.
well, no, that's what you're seeing is just issues from COVID, like
Yeah.
supply chain issues. It's not.
Yep. And if you look back into the history of hot rodding in cars, as back as early as the mid 70s, they were hailing the end of the internal combustion engine. So it's been going on for a while.
It's and you know there's a lot of other countries
Yeah,
that
they're way
cannot
behind
switch to
us.
electric.
Yeah, and
So
and
yeah,
honestly, you see it in Boston, probably a lot of electric cars. When I go to California, I see a lot of electric cars. Here in Phoenix, there's a lot of electric cars. The majority of the country, there's no electric cars.
because there's no infrastructure yet. So
Right,
it's
and they're
coming, but it's a
expensive,
ways off,
and they're
and they're
expensive,
expensive
even with the credits. I mean, to buy a small electric car, brand new, versus a small gas car, brand new, it's almost the price of two of them sometimes. So much like
Yeah,
anything, technology is coming that will blow away old technology. And
I'm bullish on it, but it's not going to happen overnight.
nope, nope, it's happening, but it's not happening overnight. So I just want to get in before we lose the carpool lane access as
Okay,
electric car drivers.
all right. I know you guys should get an electric car just for commuting around Phoenix.
Yeah, we keep talking about if we ever have to replace her Sonata,
You
we'll
have plenty of
probably
other cars for a long commute. You
we'll
just
probably
need.
buy a used e-golf because they're
Yeah.
good and they're cheap. So conversation's been had, so we'll see what happens. So real quick, I touched on it funnily for a second there. I have an SR20 in my driveway.
Yeah.
Stepson Jordan traded an Xbox for a car, which, the joke always is like, list your car for sale online, somebody offers to trade you an Xbox. Well, he did, and the guy bought. So we have
What kind of
a
Xbox?
Xbox One S,
The new one.
newer one, yeah. Yeah, like a $400 Xbox.
Oh,
So
not the newest one. Yeah, weird.
yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
yep, whatever. The kid was like, "Oh, okay." Well, he had a roommate that was living with him, and he bought the Xbox for the roommate. And he doesn't play video games on a console; he uses PC, so he never used it. So he's like, "Well, I don't need it anyway." And he wants to go to Radwood with us, and he wants his own car to go to Radwood with. So he picked up a 1988 Nissan Micra. So a car not sold in the States. It's a little 1 liter. It's actually the same chassis as like the Nissan Figaro and the
Hmm.
BE1. Um, Came with an SR20 swap, not installed.
Oh, the picture you sent it was sitting in the engine
It
bay.
was sitting in the engine bay, yeah, which I thought it was installed, but it's not. But the beauty of it is that it came with an SR20 and transmission, but it also came with the 1 liter and transmission. So I think what we're going to do is just sell the SR20 because it's like $1,000, right? Um,
Maybe. I don't know. A couple of SR20s to pull a premium one
yeah,
to
I'm waiting. I'm
race
waiting for I'm
horse.
waiting for Race Force to sell it, but and then it's used even if it's $500, use that money to put the rest of the car back together because we have all the parts
Can
to put the
you
1 liter back in it.
what transmissions with it?
It's a little 5 speed.
Okay. Can you do me a favor though? Double check that it's not a LST transmission.
I can take a look. The motor came out of an SER. I know that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it came with one on the SCR. It may have.
I'll have to look. Do you want to buy a
And if
transmission?
that's the case, then I would buy the transmission off of
All
her.
right, we'll pallet it up and get it out there. I'm not sure how I'd figure that out.
Well, we'll have to look it up.
Yeah, yeah. Look up how to look it up. Look up how to figure it out. It's literally sitting in my driveway. So,
All right.
but it's cool. It's Nissan Micra. It came out of England originally. It's red with a gray interior. It's a clean little car. Like it's neat looking. I've never even seen one in person. So I wish it was a second gen Micra because then I'd be totally into it. Because I remember the Tommy Kyra one from Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's super neat. And I was like, he's like, yeah, I want to bring it to the house and we can work on it. I was like, that's cool. So it's now in my junkyard next door to the house. So anyway, need to watch that. I'll post some pictures when I get some pictures. It looks funny right now because the front end is 32 feet in the air because there's no engine in it. But yeah, it's cool. I dig it.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So keep an eye out for pictures of that guy.
Yeah.
But,
All right. Well, on that note, I'd say keep cars analog and aim for the roses.
also follow us on social media. Auto After
Yep.
Dark Podcast on Instagram. TSISS350 on Instagram.
Yep. I am
wanna...
Racing Anger on Instagram. And we're on all major podcast platforms. So, I haven't checked out in a while is any reviews. So,
yeah, I haven't checked like our followers or reviews or if anybody's even listening anymore.
Yeah.
Rambling
So
in the
if you're
darkness.
a new listener, welcome. I think we do have a couple of new listeners, but definitely leave us some reviews because that helps us go up in the rankings.
Yeah, for sure. We should remind people that at the beginning of the episode before they've gotten bored and gone away.
Yeah.
Before they before they realize they don't like us and don't leave a good review.
We do have some
These
stuff
guys
coming.
started so positive. I'll leave them a good review.
I've got some stickers coming. I've got keychains that I had made.
Yep.
They literally came like in January of 2020 out of Asia. Like I got them just out of Asia right before COVID.
We were all so hopeful then. So that was 2 years ago, Andrew.
Yeah, they've been sitting in my garage. I haven't done anything with them.
Crazy.
Because we've been waiting to launch a website. We're trying to launch a website for 2022.
January. Yep.
I'm going to keep saying it, so we do it.
Yep. Hold us accountable.
Because we want to get back into actually having content and not beholden to the metaverse.
Yeah, exactly. Wasn't good when that went down. Nobody could find us anywhere.
Nope. So, we'll, as always, like I said, keep cars analog and aim for the roses.